Sharing my screen. Can you guys see?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So this session, right, it requires a bit of interaction and engagement from you guys. Okay, so if you are, so feel free to unmute yourself when you have to talk. Okay, so hopefully there's not much of background noise. So as we discussed before, right, there are a lot of people who become business analysts. Okay, there are only few people who are like really good business analysts. So what is the difference? So why should you become a good business analyst and not just become a normal or an average business analyst? Because the first thing is the kind of work or the kind of projects that you work on are like totally different. Okay, so there are business analysts, people who have just the title of business analysis and they work in MIS projects, okay, or reporting projects, but they call themselves as business analysts. But all they do is create reports, okay, and configure reports, etc. So I'm not condescending that, but there are people who work on like really challenging requirements and challenging platforms as well. So the quality of work that you get is totally different. And the second most important thing is there are people who make 1x of their experience and there are people who make like 10x of their experience. So I know business analysts who make 5 lakh. I know business analysts who make 75 lakhs as well, who are working in Bangalore. Okay. So the mindset is what makes them different on how they approach things, right? That is something that makes difference. So which is why I've scheduled like one session focusing on mindset. Okay. So when it comes to mindset, right, there is no silver bullet where, okay, so someone can actually get into your mind and change everything in this 1 hour session. But so the intention here is to take you through what are the common situations that you are likely to encounter when you start working as a business analyst. And so whenever you encounter each of the situations, right, you will be left with two options. Okay, so one option is to go the left way and the other option is to go the right way. Okay, so which option will you choose and why should you choose that option? So that's something that we'll look at. So the objective is to make you aware of the key situations that you are likely to encounter and how should you make a decision. Okay. So the mindset, right? Having a good mindset helps you navigate in situations like, so some of the situations that we as business analysts encounter, right? So why me and my stakeholders are not on the same page, okay? And why don't they listen to me? So you see something that is really obvious. You see something that is like very clear, but your stakeholders are not seeing on the same page. They're not on the same page, okay? And you're trying to explain to them, but they're not ready to listen to you, right? So how should you react to that situation? And you have proposed a change to solve a business problem that they have reported, but they're resisting to that change. Okay, so why are they resisting to that change, right? And why? So you are trying to influence your decisions, but they are not getting influenced. Okay, so they are not listening to what you're saying, and you are unable to influence your solutions or your decisions onto them. Okay, so what should you do? So your stakeholders, your developers, they are working on a solution and you clearly know that this solution won't work, okay, but you're not able to prove to them. So how will you react, right? So you have a group of stakeholders who don't talk to each other, so you are the only point of contact among all the stakeholders, right? So how will you react to that? And the sixth one is the most worst of all, where your stakeholders, you are trying to help them by solving their problems, but your stakeholders don't talk to you. Okay, so they say that they are super busy, right? So developing a right mindset, right, will help you navigate through all these situations. right? So a good business analyst will be easily able to sail through all these situations and will be able to capitalize on each of these situations. Whereas a business analyst who is not having the right mindset, right, he will get stuck in these situations. He will be frustrated and he will think he is not able to sustain in this role. He will quit and move to some other role. Okay, so that's the difference. So probably I'll take a pause here. Do you have any questions on why we should develop the right mindset? Okay, so if no question, so we can keep moving. So the goals, I've listed few goals here. So the goal is how to be fearless when you're conducting business analysis. Okay, so throughout the process, so how to be fearless and how to question without any fear, how to sail through without any fear. Okay, and the second thing is, so we a lot of times we have a bias that okay, this is how things should work. Okay, this will not work, or this will work, right? It's all based on our previous experience with projects. Okay, so for example, in your previous role or in your previous organization, you must have proposed something and then your that change, whatever ideas you propose were never considered. Okay, so it's very likely when you move into a new role or when you move into a new organization, you carry the same bias that okay, so no matter what I tell, people will not change, or no matter what I tell, my ideas will not be valued, right? So that's so a good business analyst will recognize this bias and then try to change that bias. Okay, and the so normal business analyst, right, will so whenever they face uncertainty, they will go through a lot of stress and frustration. For example, uncertainty could be like changing requirements frequently. So every time you document requirements, your requirements keeps changing because of the, it could be because of business dynamics, or it could be because of changing business rules, or the market dynamics. Um, so a good business analyst will take this as a challenge and navigate through this uncertainty with a lot of confidence. Whereas a normal business analyst, right, they will get frustrated and they will keep complaining to everyone that this is the worst project that I've ever worked in, and the stakeholders are probably the worst, and they keep changing requirements, and it's just my bad luck that I got into this project. Okay, so then you see the difference in the mindsets, right? And the so as business analysts, we often have to work under tremendous pressures and tremendous timelines. Okay, so you have some requirement which is prioritized, and then something else comes up, and then so you have regulatory pressures, you have delivery pressures, etc. Right? So how to keep maintain this calm and focus on the end result is what makes you different. Okay, so how to not be affected by pressures is one of the goals of having the right mindset. The next thing is, a lot of times we tend to think more from a requirement perspective or a problem perspective. Okay, so but it's important to think from a macro level. So what is the value that I'm going to deliver to the organization or the business by delivering this feature? So thinking zo- zooming out and then thinking like in on a very high level, right? That is something a lot of business analysts don't do. They are constantly driven by the day-to-day changes. Okay, small requirements. They're more focused on the requirements without thinking of the value that it's generating to the organization. Okay, and the next thing is understanding others' intentions and expectations and reading through their minds and reading through what they're saying, right? That is another goal. Okay. The last thing is, so if you should be really obsessed with making your stakeholders happy, making them satisfied, and adding value to them. So these are the key goals that you need to have. Okay. So I have some scenarios. So we'll actually go through these scenarios and then probably discuss how each of you would react to each these situations. Okay. So probably what I'll do is so how many people do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4. Avisha is 4. So 9. 4,
9 participants.
9, right? 9. Okay. So 9 means we can actually divide by 4 into 2, and one group maybe I can. So one person can stay with me and we can form a group. So so I'll be splitting you into groups, and then I'm just pinging you the questions that you have to, the scenarios that maybe take like 5 minutes to discuss what you would do, and one person can come back and then explain what they would do, right? And then we can discuss whether it's the right approach or not. Okay. The first group I'll make Pooja and Suhasini in the first group. These two are your scenarios, Pooja and Suhasini. Then
Okay.
okay. Then I'll put Vijay and Mabisha. So these two are your scenarios, Vijay and Mavisha. And then we'll put Anshuman and then Ritika, are you available? Hello.
Yes, I'm there.
Okay. So maybe I'll put Maninder and Ritika into one group. And who's remaining? Anyone is remaining?
Ravi Venkatesh.
Venkatesh. Okay, so Venkatesh, you and me will discuss like one scenario. Okay, so just stay back and we'll go through like a couple of them together. Okay. So what I will do is I will split you into groups. So it'll be how many, like four rooms, right? So Venkatesh, you stay back. Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, first room is one Pooja and Swasini. So I'm just have a sign. And second room is Anshuman. Sorry, who's the second room? Pooja and Swasini. Then
Vijay and Mavisha.
Vijay and Mavisha. Okay. Vijay and Mavisha. Then third room, can you tell me, is it Anshuman and Kadar?
Anshuman and Kadar. Yeah, Anshuman and Kadar. And fourth
fourth
is Maninder and Ritika.
Okay. Okay, so it's so we can take like 5 minutes and then come back. So I'll bring you guys back to this room. So one of you can actually present how you will react to that situation. Okay. So hopefully 5 minutes should be sufficient, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Venkatesh, are you there?
I'm there, Ravi.
Okay, fine. So we will go through one of these couple of scenarios.
So Ravi, so in this case, we need to discuss with the other person and we need to again rejoin the call.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you have quit, is it? Kader?
Yeah, everyone has quit.
Huh?
I think
Venkatesh?
everyone has quit. I'm there, Ravi.
You're
But
there, right?
everyone
Okay.
is left, I think.
Okay, fine, Venkatesh. So, so 9, 10 we can discuss. Okay. Um, so 9 is like you are working on a high profile requirement. Okay, and the development is 50% complete. And you found that an important functionality is missing. Okay, and it is because you missed documenting the requirements related to it.
Okay.
So what will you do next in that situation?
Is there a product owner?
Um,
This case,
Assume, okay, so that's a good question. So assume there is no product owner. Somebody has joined back.
Kader is on.
Okay. Mavisha and Vijay and Shivan.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, sorry, Ravi. How to connect Anshuman?
Anshuman, okay, so I'll move you to that room once again. Assign to Anshuman room 3. Yeah, you can move now. So assume that, okay, so there is a product owner, Venkatesh, yeah. So you found, but you are the business analyst and you found, so your product owner has actually told you that requirement, but you actually missed to document that requirement. And 50% is completed. And when you were doing like a quick sanity testing, right, you realized, okay, so that is missed. And no one else realized that.
Okay. So the first thing what I'll do, I'll just speak to the development team, whether is there any possibility to include in the sprint backlog. So if there is a possibility, I'll just try to fix it in between or at the end of the sprint just before a sprint backlog. I'll try to fix it. I'll try to insert in it. If it's not possible, we need to talk to the product owner and discuss this issue which was on fault. So I think that is what in my mind.
Yeah, so that's a good approach, because a lot of times in practice, what we do, right? So business analysts, they hide these requirements because no one else has recognized these, right? Recognized this missing requirement. And so once you start saying, right, they can people, if this is a very critical requirement, right? So people may start questioning how this got missed in the first place, right? So always the right approach is to make it transparent to every stakeholder, even they don't realize. So it may not be a showstopper, right? Or maybe it may not be a real issue and people may be willing to wait for it. Or it could be a real issue. So better to solve issues sooner rather than later, correct? Because um, so there is a concept of Murphy's law. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. So whatever we miss, right, so that will come back to us sooner rather than later. Okay, so this missed requirement could turn out to be a major issue after we go live, correct? So it's always better to make it transparent. Bring all your stakeholders to a shared understanding and make them realize that, okay, this is a missed requirement and how should we prioritize it and how should we scope it. Okay, so that's the right mindset. So which is good. So what you said is right. The next one is, so we are working on a requirement related to a complex business process and only one user in the organization knows end to end of it. Okay, and the user then explains it to you, and you have now mastered it. Okay, so that process, and now in the organization, only you and another user knows it. So what will you do next after this situation?
Okay. I'll just schedule a meeting with the related process people, and just give them a KT session, and I'll record it, and I'll make sure if everyone get mastered into the same.
Yeah, that's good. And the other thing that you can do is, once again, okay. The other thing that you can do is that uh, there must be a reason why only one person in the organization knows that process, right? And now you know. It could be because the process is so complicated. Okay, it could be the process itself was complicated due to bureaucracy, or it could be because this person, he doesn't want to be made redundant and he wanted to have that key person dependency. Okay, so if the process is complex, right, it is your responsibility as a business analyst to make it simple. Okay, simplifying the process, simplifying complex process, simplify till a level where you think there is no wastage in the process. Okay, make it as simple as possible, and then make it like transparent to everyone else. Because what happens is, this user, or maybe if it's only you know this, right, anytime a change requires to this process, right, people will come to you. So you will not get an opportunity to work on anything new, and you will be the only one who will be working on this process every time. Right?
Yes.
Really, sir.
So Maninder and Ritika, they're back. So are you guys done, Maninder and Ritika, with the two scenarios?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Ravi.
Okay.
Ravi,
Yeah.
I have one personal doubt. So actually, as of now, my designation, my offer letter is senior software engineer. How can I modify and move into the business analyst? Is it okay for that?
Okay. So what happens is, your designation could be a senior software engineer, right? But you
Yes.
can put the role as a business analyst, if because you must have already performed the roles and responsibilities of a business analyst, right? A lot of times I have seen developers performing the role of a business analyst as well. Okay, so your designation is something that we can't change, right? But we can update your CV to reflect the different business analysis activities that you have performed. Because especially that's a very common thing, because what happens is, when we are working in Agile and Scrum projects, right, a lot of times we are cross-functional, and a business analyst can do like BA and QA work, or a software engineer can do BA and QA as well. Okay, so
Okay.
one person can do everything. So that's something we'll look at during the CV review phase, and we'll make changes.
Okay.
Probably we'll just give one more minute, because Kadar and Anshuman, they must have joined late, right?
I think we didn't answer our questions, I think.
Sorry, Ritika.
I think we didn't answer our questions, right? Sorry. Are you there, Maninder? Am I audible?
You are audible,
I
Ritika.
am, yeah. So
Yeah.
I thought we just have to discuss it, or we need to write the responses, Ravi.
That's okay. So we,
I think we're
as long as you
discussing.
discuss, that's fine, because we'll wait for everyone else to join as well. And then,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So maybe it's time to bring them back. Do you think it was sufficient time? I think Pooja and Suhasini, they are back.
Yeah, we are back actually.
Yes, yes.
So are we waiting for more people?
Yeah, so we're waiting for room 2 and room 3.
Okay.
Hello, Ravi.
Yeah.
So, do we need to start discussing? Or,
Yeah. Okay. So I think everyone is back now, right? Yeah. So probably the first two, Sue and Pooja, do you want to discuss?
Yeah, first one.
Yes,
Yeah.
Second one.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I'll start answering the first question.
Yeah.
Our question was, what will you do if you find a defect during the testing? Who can be blamed?
Yeah.
So the post our discussion, I mean, if it's a realistic scenario, the first thing is it's a defect that is found during the testing phase. So we need to just trace back and understand, do a root cause analysis of where is the defect, and there the blame game isn't there in the picture. I mean, there is no point in blaming anyone. You need to figure out what is the error, understand the root causes. There are various root cause techniques that can be used to find the error or the impact part, and then you need to liaise with the right stakeholders and need to do the correction. So either update the user stories, send the new user stories, and get the tests done again. So the approach towards this thing of a defect during a testing phase has to be more of solution oriented, connecting with the right stakeholders. If we are not sure of whether the requirement was right, we can go back and check that. We can update the user stories. We can again check. I'm sorry, not update, but we should give another user stories to check and get the test done again. The blame game shouldn't be there. But if it's a major defect or a major this thing, then certainly we have to involve the scrum master or the project owner as well if required. But again, we need to follow the right channel of communication. But certainly no one should be blamed, because it is something as a more of a learning for us as well as a business analyst.
Yeah, so that's very well summarized, Pooja. So any other views from anyone on this situation?
I think during the root cause, we have to understand. Sometimes it happens like uh, I mean, defect is not legitimate. Sometimes what happens, so how we are interpreting the requirement, that's different, or sometimes it's the underlying data is not correct.
Yeah.
So if once we are, I mean, sure, if it is a legitimate defect, then I think I agree what Pooja said.
Yeah, that's right, actually. So good points from both of you. So what we need to do here is, so in the traditional waterfall mindset, right? So the moment you find a defect, so who should be blamed? Okay, so should the developer be blamed? Should the user be blamed for not giving the requirements? Should the business analyst be blamed for missing the requirement? Or should the developer be blamed for not going through the requirements properly? Or should the tester be blamed for a false alarm, right? So that used to be the approach. But now with Scrum and Agile, so we are like really not worried about who should be blamed. So instead, so once we find a defect during our test, so what we do is, so we take this defect and to the stakeholders, socialize this defect to everyone, and create a shared understanding of how this defect should be handled. Okay, so if people acknowledge that it's a genuine defect, right, so then we go and create a new user story. We create a defect user story, and then it goes to the same prioritization loop. Okay, so there is no question or reason to find who's the blame. So once you find a defect, create a shared understanding, create the requirement in the backlog, and then move ahead. Where you actually need to understand a bit more if this is repeating more often, right? So maybe retro is a good place to find out on, maybe raise a concern that, so of late we are finding a lot of defects during tests. So what are the ways in which we can improve, and not highlighting any specific role or person as a team. So how can we improve? And retro is one such forum where you can frankly and honestly voice out these opinions. Okay, so hope everyone is on the same page with this scenario.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, the
Ravi,
second.
do we have, I mean, various processes as far as Agile is concerned, like inspection, peer review, and kind of thing, where we can, I mean, put a process in place to minimize these type of defects?
So peer review is something which is common as part of CI/CD processes, right? So any developer creates the code, peer will review. So that is a very standard practice. But these defects could be for various reasons, right? Maybe your user missed it, or maybe your QA misinterpreted. But the focus is not on how to identify who's the reason behind this defect, but it's on how to create a shared understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ravi, this is Mavisha here.
Yeah.
Yeah, just trying to understand the work of a software tester is to figure out the defects. So that is a good step, right? Actually, because because before we are deploying the workable environment into production, is figuring out and is creating a solution for that. So why there is a question that who can be blamed for that?
Because what happens if you find a major defect, okay, and you realize, so you thought you made a commitment to your customers that you will deliver the software by end of this month, okay, and during the test you encountered a major defect which will change the whole situation, okay, so you have to redo the development and then you have to redo everything and you will not be able to meet these timelines. Imagine you are a bank and then you publish these timelines in all the newspapers and all social media, etc., that you're going live.
Okay.
Right. So defects are good because it will, so at least you're not failing your system in production.
But it should be reasonable, right?
Yeah, but it could cause like situations where people can misunderstand, often get into conflicts. But as a good business analyst, right, you should make sure that people don't get into the blame game and focus on creating the shared understanding.
Because in one such instance, as I was a QA, one of my other colleague, where he had tested everything with a proper actual result, expected as well, without defect, and BA came back with the email saying that didn't find even single defect. Then we were like, yeah, didn't find. So then again they told to retest it, see if there is any defect. So rework, right? So that's the reason I asked this.
Okay, yeah, possible. So QA's role is to break the code, right, or break the application to make sure that the code is standard. So it could be a specific instance where they wanted you to make sure, maybe it's a critical change and they wanted you to doubly sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Ravi, related to this question,
yeah,
can you just deselect that? I'm not.
Yeah.
So it's like defect during the test. So is it like when the testing is being done that time, or the testing has been already done, but we are kind of retrospecting it? Because you told
during
we
the
can
test.
take
So
it
when
up
you're
in
testing it, you found a defect.
So in that case, retro, if you tell, if you project it on, we can take it up on retro. So retro is the last one, right? Where we are kind of going ahead with the feedback kind of a session. What can be improved and all those steps, right?
Yeah, correct. So what I'm saying is so the blame game, or what is the root cause, right, is something that you can look at in the retro. If this pattern repeats quite often, okay. For example, you used to have only 2 or 3 defects, but of late you are having like a lot of defects. Probably the BA is not really gathering the requirements, or maybe the stakeholder is hiding some requirements, right? So the improvements you discuss in the retro, but making the defects transparent, you do it immediately. You don't wait for the retro.
So kind of we can take it up on the urgent, means working kind of a scenario, but that root cause or the issue, we can discuss it on the retro so that it doesn't happen for the next one.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Okay. Yeah.
Next one, thanks for asking.
Yeah. So who is more important, immediate manager or customer? So I think it depends on the context, like wherein if you're talking about the BA roles and responsibilities, I think immediate manager is more important for us because he's the one who's giving us a requirement and he collects the requirements from the end user also. And if you're talking about the project based, like complete project based, then I think customer is more important. This is my view.
Okay. Yeah, so that's interesting view. So for us as business analysts, right? So for example, your manager is the one who decides your appraisal. Your manager is the one who decides your career and your promotion, etc. Right? Then you have other people in the team who will mean a lot to you, right? So your developers will be the ones who will be supporting you. Your architects will be helping you with the architecture and technical solutions, and your customer will be will be the one who's dependent on you. So when there is a conflicting priority, right? For example, your immediate manager has come to you with a pet project, and you're in the middle of solving customer problems, right? So that's where we often tend to take a view that immediate manager is more important than a customer. Okay, so for a customer, nobody is more important than a business user. Okay, so adding business value, solving customer problems, right, is more important than anything else. Because if they are not there, and if their problems don't exist, or if they don't bring up new opportunities, right, we don't need business analysts in projects. Okay, so always give more importance to your customers and business over your immediate manager. Okay, so let's say if you are working, if you are helping your customers to solve a business problem, and you know that you are adding tremendous value by helping the customer solve, uh, and your immediate manager comes and tells you, okay, I have a presentation tomorrow, so can you prepare it for me, right? So obviously the tendency, we have a tendency that, okay, so we say yes to immediate manager because he is responsible for our promotion, right? Customer anyway, so he can wait. There is no impact, right? But a good business analyst, we have to, as a good business analyst, right, we have to change our mindset. We need to go and tell, we need to inform our immediate manager that I cannot prepare the presentation tomorrow because I am solving a problem which will increase the revenue by 10x, okay, or which will improve the time of the customer by 5x. So if I work on creating this presentation, right, I'm afraid that the change will be delayed, and this is the opportunity cost by delaying that change. Okay, so when you go and clarify this and explain this to your immediate manager, right, he would be much more impressed than when then you're just saying yes to your immediate manager. So when you have a conflicting situation between choosing between immediate manager or customer, always choose customer, because without customer we don't exist. Any questions?
Yeah, Ravi, I have one question.
Yeah.
So means if I put it on real-time scenarios, that theoretically it is okay, because anyways we know that customer is the kind of scenario, because of them the project is there and all the other team members are there. But again, when it, as you told, anyways at the end of the day, it is the manager who actually does everything from out, means a personal point of view.
Yeah,
that is, so all the means criteria that are being handled on a day-to-day basis from our point of view is being handled by the manager only. So that is okay if we can take it up. But again, at the end of the day, when it comes to the year-end appraisal, or kind of once the project is done for going for the next project, it may hamper. So how feasible is it?
So it is pretty much feasible, because the only blocker that we generally have, right? Oh, he's my immediate manager, my appraisal will go for a toss. Okay, if I go and tell him this, right? But I have seen in my experience, when you go and explain this, right? When you go and explain this business rationale, there are a lot of managers who really appreciate this. Okay, and they give you a lot more weightage then, because you're not simply saying yes to whatever they're asking, right? You're telling, okay, you're asking them to choose priorities, and you're explaining them, okay, that you're working on much more important work.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a difficult one, but this is what I've seen that makes people stand out. Okay.
I faced this challenge, Ravi. It's a little, my previous company, I faced this realistic way also. So that means that when I'm working with the client, okay, so that means my company manager told to me just increase the estimation. But when I go there, I don't have any feasibility to increase the estimations. Assume that one, for example, there is a one functionality that is we can complete in 10 days, but manager asked me to increase that one, it's a 30 days. Right? So even if that means end of the day, I need to present with the bank. That means the business, I need to present. If I present, it's a 30 days. Obviously, the bank will not consider.
Yeah.
Okay, even if I gave it is a different estimation, bank is also not considered. They will think as a you are the full person, you cannot do the proper estimation. Okay, if I'm rejected, okay, if I do my own estimations, then my manager is not happy with.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that it's easy, but you should always try
Yes,
to
sir. Okay,
give
so
preference to
I,
your
I
customer
tried my
over.
I tried my manager to explain it is not the realistic 10%, but he is not considered. Then I quit my project, I quit my job, and I went looked at another opportunity.
Yeah, so that will really pay you off in the long run. At least you
Yes,
did the right thing, right? You did what is
yes,
right.
I did the right thing, but still we have a good contact in return. That means at least okay, the bank side or the client side, you have a good impression, but the manager side you don't have a good impression.
Yeah, so it definitely pays off in the long run, taking the right stance or being on the
If you
customer
are in a
side.
firm staff in that company, then you don't have any problem. Then you can move into another project, another manager level. But when we are working with, it's like something in the contract roles. Then in that case, we may have a chance to lose job, everything. But at the same time, we cannot uh, degrade ourselves also.
Yeah, so a lot of times I've seen like these days, at least managers, they are a lot more rational and then accepting this. Okay, so let's move to the next one. Who has worked on this?
Yeah, this Mavisha.
Mavisha and Vijay, right?
Vijay. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll go with the third one.
Yeah.
So the question was related to how do you optimize the process efficiency? So I will sit with the end user and try to understand what's concerned with regard to the taking a lot of time. And I will observe the work-wise, whether he's manually inputting a lot of fields in the system, or whether he's using mainframe applications where they input a lot of fields for a set of transaction processing. After writing down, I contact the developer and I will check with them whether these fields could be able to automate it or now or where they are pulling this data from the sources, or they can able to automate the sources from those and can able to optimize the timing and the processing level.
Okay.
So this way I can able to make tell the consumer, I mean end user that we can improvise.
So Ravi, basically we'll do a two-step process. The first, we will understand the current state and see if there is any chances of automation. So where we can just improve the efficiency of the process by automating some certain processes.
Okay.
Okay. So the another process, I suppose there is no scope of improvement in the processes, and we are already automated each and everything. So the second process we can discuss with the development team and see if we can why this process is taking so long, and if there is any scope of optimization, and we can propose that change to the customer. And if there is a no scope of improvement in that process, we can just tell them at the granular level, these are the processes and transactions that take place during this process, so that's why it taking this much time.
Okay. So yeah, good inputs from you, both of you. So, but I will take a step back and then, so let's say here your customer is saying, I take a lot of time to process a transaction and it is frustrating, right? So always remember that a customer will not come and tell you the exact problem or exact uh, exact root cause of the problem. Okay, so customer will always tell you the symptoms. Okay, so when you, let's say you go to a doctor, right? So you don't go and tell the doctor, okay, so I'm having these symptoms because there is something on the top of my right intestine, right? So we don't say that, okay? So we
We'll
can only
diagnose
say
it.
that, okay, so my stomach is paining, or maybe, right? So it could be, so similarly, you hear your customer is saying, I take a lot of time to process a transaction. It is frustrating, okay? So a lot of times what we think is, okay, it's taking a lot of time to process a transaction. Okay, process improvement. Okay, look at the process, go through the process, improve the process, look for scope for improvement of process, right? But so you should always look at the symptom. Okay, so wait, okay, so this may not be the real problem, right? It's taking a lot of time to process a transaction. Why is it taking a lot of time, right? um, then is your customer having like process issue, could be one of it. Or what if the application is slow and that is why it is taking a lot of time. Or maybe the customer's internet is causing the issue, or maybe the customer is opening the application in a certain browser and that's why it's slowing down, right? Or maybe the customer is opening too many screens of the application and that's why it's slowing down, right? So you need to look at um, different angles to identify what is causing this symptom, okay, before jumping into the actual solution. In this case, right, your customer can go to the next level and say, I take a lot of time to process a transaction, it's frustrating, I need to do something to improve my process. Correct. So he may go and say that as well. And we will be misled thinking that, okay, all we need to do is process improvement and situation will improve. Okay, but we need to take a step back and look at, okay, what are the potential causes of this symptom? Okay, so that's the third one. Vijay, you want to look at the fourth one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, since I'm a newly joined team member, so what I can do, uh, because I know the solution is not going to work. What I can do, I can, in, any meeting, I can raise my voice and tell them like I have faced similar situation in my past project where the solution that we are developing it is not going to work, and I will tell them the exact example like why this is not going to work, and also suggest them like this is the change we have done and that solution work perfectly.
Yeah, so that's a good approach. The first thing is we need to have the courage to raise our voice and say that, okay, so this solution seems to have a problem. Okay, so of course we need to put it very gently, because especially you are a new person in the team and the development is 50% completed, right? So it's very likely that you will be rubbing shoulders against some of the key people in the team, and then you will be hurting their egos, right? So probably you can soften the message and then tell them that, okay, so do you think, I see that, okay, this requirement is missed. How are we trying to achieve this, solve this problem? So I think we are missing to solve this problem. Is my understanding right? Okay, please correct if I'm wrong. Maybe soften the tone and then still put across your point. I have seen two types of business analysts. So one is who are scared that, okay, oh, I just joined the team, I'm just a junior in the team, if I say this right, so what will people think? So they just stay quiet. Okay, and this requirement turns out to be a real showstopper, and they still, keep thinking in their mind, oh, maybe I should have raised my voice and told, it would have saved so much of effort for people, right? And the other kind of BA, so who will be happily smiling internally, thinking that, okay, I know someday this will fail, and I will keep, and they'll keep enjoying. Okay, so they'll just watch the fun. So what is the right thing to do is always raise your voice, but soften your tone, and then put across your point. So that's the right mindset. Okay.
To whom should we raise our voice to? To project product owner, or is that something?
Yeah, product owner is the right person, Avisha. So product owner, or if you can raise it as a blocker in your daily Scrum.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so who's next? I think it's Anshuman and Kadar, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Kadar will be taking this first one.
Yeah.
So suppose the user is not giving the proper answer and it's behaving in the it's a rude response. So then first of all we'll try to avoid the situation. It's that means if I have any specific requirement and I will plan for that one, what are the questions I have to be asked with the users. But when I get it, it's in rude responses. So that time I try to avoid to asking the next question and give a chance to it's like a something it's to avoid the way of the proper uh, business requirements gathering. Instead of that one to have something in the coffee to just it's like to spend some times with the proper how is going on, all these things. It's a normal discussions. Okay, again I will start for the next question. That means how the requirement and what is before I'm asking the question is also why that requirement, why that question, and what is the purpose of that question. So and what solution I will get if I ask the question is also what I will get a response.
Yep. That's a good summary, Kader. So a lot of times, right, when you prepare a list of 10 questions, then you go into a meeting, and within the first response, so you receive a condescending or rude response, right? A lot of business analysts, they shut down. Okay, so they think, okay, this is the end. I'm not going to talk to that user anymore, right? But be prepared that you will face a lot of situations like this, right? And
Ravi,
so, yeah.
So, like to avoid this, why can't we like just write a mail before we go to the meeting, and then we can sit for an interview. Maybe that will help I think to better the situation. Like because they are already expecting our questions, and I think we can expect proper responses from them. Like we can do the emailing first and then go to the interview.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, so that's a good idea. Sending an
But
email.
anyhow, yes, but anyhow, we see before you are raising the questions and before you are doing some interview also. So obviously, it is the call is scheduled. Okay, so call is scheduled, and when we are that means the meeting is coming in very soon in the next 30 minutes or 15 minutes. Obviously, you are going to be reminders also. So is it good to go for that? And if you have a call in the next 15 minutes, these are all it's a common discussion. Ravi.
Yeah, correct.
So it's a formal procedure. You can say it's a formal procedure. These are all.
Yeah. So don't be upset when you receive a condescending or a rude response, right? And this is something that we'll be facing every day. And so I'll give you some instances where I faced this situation. Okay. So in one of the projects, so I was working on creating a solution to make sure that there is a maker checker whenever a collateral or a margin is updated. Okay, so collateral or margin is something that we take from the customers when we are trading. Okay, and so I was gathering these requirements and I wanted to make sure that we have a maker checker 4i check. One person creates it and another person approves. I went into a meeting and then I asked this question, and then there was this operations user. So he immediately shut me down that this is you're just wasting the bank's money. There is no need to have this feature. We already have a macro which is doing this same job. Okay, so we already have a macro which is very stable. Why are you investing? I don't like this project. It's just useless. Okay, and then after a few years, it turned out to be that this operations user was involved in a fraudulent activity where he was using that macro to update incorrect collateral for customers by taking money from them. So he was updating higher collateral numbers, and so that the customers can trade more on high value with actually wherein they have like less margin with the bank. Okay, so he's updating fictitious collateral numbers. So that is one example. okay, or maybe the project that you're working on maybe making his role redundant, okay, or maybe you're making his situation difficult by implementing this project. Or there is another situation, for example, let's say if I'm in the middle of an important meeting, right, and somebody calls me, let's say my close friend calls me, right, and I picked up the phone, and then I told him, I'm busy, call me later, right, and my friend was really hurt, thinking that, okay, so I called this guy after so long and he gave me this rude response that call me later, how can he do that to me? But and then he called me back again on a weekend and I spoke with him like 1 hour at a stretch, correct? So sometimes it could be the situation the user is in may be bad, okay, so he may be having a rough day, so try a different situation. Also another thing, like what Kader said, take him out for a coffee if situation is repeating, right? So such things will definitely help. But don't shut yourself from asking these remaining 9 questions. We should be shameless and we should proceed and continue with our investigation without giving up. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Seen it's many people in my regular also. So while doing in the PwC meetings, so some people they throw out the papers and they just walk out from the meeting itself.
Yeah, very common. So we should not take it personal. It's very common. A lot of BS, they will get scared and they
Because
will not
some
get
people
involved.
they were they have been in the bank level almost for 20 years, 13 years. Okay, so when we join it's a newly, so they will think as a this guy doesn't know anything like this. They have it's a very less opinion about for us. So in this case, they will think like they know the each and everything, and they thought like it's a different opinion about business analyst also because he doesn't know the what is the business is going on the bank level, right? So that's why he
Yeah.
more on the functional level. So
Yeah.
in this case, we try to as much of when he's in a rough time, when his mood is it's different in the shut it down, it's a different way. Then in that case, we try to avoid to ask him more questions instead of to take something in avoid and then we can plan for the another day. That is only I can see the best solution.
Yeah. So, but we should not stop. I mean, we should not completely abandon asking these 9 questions. We should find ways to get them clarified. Okay. So that's the
Yes,
important takeaway.
perfect.
Yeah. The next one, who said you ask your stakeholder on why they.
And that one, Anshuman will give.
Anshuman. Yeah, Anshuman. Yeah.
So, Ravi, my thought process is like we can take it on we can kind of convince the stakeholder that this particular scenarios that we have taken off in with this current sprint are kind of as per the acceptance or evaluation criteria or specific scenarios that criteria system or evaluation system that we have taken it up. And as per that, the requirement that you people are saying, it is not kind of fits into the MVP means a viable product that we are creating. It doesn't fit into that. We, as you are saying it, we can take it on a priority basis for the next one. But still, if he convinces that yes, I need it anyways, so I can tell him that yes, I can still take it up with the Scrum team and look at the feasible structure for it if it can be processed for this time.
Yeah, so that's a good approach. So I'll probably give you an example that I came across on this scenario. So once so one of the key stakeholders, so he came and asked us, can you create this report for us? Okay, then we said, okay, so I'll set up a requirement gathering session. So where we'll understand why you need this report, what are the different fields you need this report, and all of that. Okay, then he said, no need of requirement gathering meeting. So just copy this report. Okay, so there is an existing report that's running, just copy that report. Okay, so that was the one line that he sent. Okay, so you can, so then the next thing that we asked him is, so if it's a copy of that report, right, then why do you need another report? So we'll send you the same report. Okay, then why are you asking us to create another report for that, right? So then he realized, no, it's not an actual copy. I need these values. Okay. Then we said, okay, the existing report is not actually extracting these values. Okay, then he said, no, the values, the columns will be different, but the logic is same. Okay, then we said, okay, so the existing report is extracting based on this filter criteria. Is it that you want? So can we keep the same logic and then extract new columns? Then he said, no, this is not the logic that I want. So in reality, right, so he wanted a totally different report, but he got confused. He had some bias that, okay, he just needs a copy of that. So you see how we have actually drilled down into gathering requirements from this person by taking a step-by-step approach, right? So likewise, you need to make sure that you are understanding why people need that report or requirement, what value you are adding, and then move into the solutioning. Okay, so sometimes what happens is this hippos, right? So highest paid person's opinion in the room. So we will simply go with that. When a powerful stakeholder asks us to do something, right, even if they give us one line requirement, we blindly do it without understanding. Okay, so always ask questions and find creative ways to understand or gather requirements. So gathering requirements is not something like, okay, you go to a mango farm, then you see a mango tree with all mangoes. So you just climb the tree and then you pick the mangoes, come home, make the juice and drink, right? So all the requirements will be hidden. So you need to kind of extract them by asking different questions and finding creative ways. Okay, so that's the message. The next one, who's it? Is it? I think
So
Ritika.
Ravi,
Yeah.
Ravi, I
Yeah.
would just, in that case, I would just say that there is no specific answers to it, to all these scenarios. Only thing is like how means creatively you kind of handle it and communicate it to the stakeholders.
Yeah. So before that, right, you need to see you. So as I said at the beginning, right, you have two paths to choose. Okay. So one is the right one, the other one. Okay. For example, here you have a choice to make, right? So he said, okay, it is because I need it. Okay. You silently accept it and then go ahead and develop that requirement. Or the second path is go and challenge, keep challenging, be persistent, and then find ways to challenge. So that's the difference in the mindset. So you see 80% of the business analysts in the market, they take the first approach. When the powerful stakeholder says, I need it, they will simply go and get it developed without asking any questions.
Okay.
Okay.
But I have a query again here. Now, from an interview perspective, what should be a better way to handle it? Like the first part or first way or the second way?
Second way, obviously. So even in your work, it should be the second way. Even in the interview, it should be the second way.
Okay.
Yeah. So Ritika and Maninder, do you want to continue on the 7 and 8?
Yeah, so for 7, I think Ravi, I think it is usual in today's world. We might get additional responsibilities with our defined roles and responsibilities. So as BA, we might get project management, people management, or other aspects which are not in line with our daily responsibilities. So I think we can take them probably as the um, timing or as the situation demands, right? um, um, but if there is anything that's out of the box, or it's out of the standard with what you are doing in your day-to-day life, we can probably talk to our manager and get those delegated to someone else, rather than keeping the task with you and then missing on the timelines.
Yeah.
Radhika,
So
you want to add?
yeah, so that's absolutely right, Maninder. The the reality, right, as a business analyst, sometimes we are given additional responsibilities, and a lot of times we think we are not paid for those responsibilities, right? A project owner and product owner, they get to call all the shots. Then why are we given these additional responsibilities? People look up to us because we are good at stakeholder management, right? We are good at communicating with people. So that's why they give some of these responsibilities to us, and it's just a part and parcel of it. Okay. So we need to take up these responsibilities because we are the ones who are good at creating a shared understanding, right? So we are like leaders without authority, so we can influence even if we don't have any authority. So that's why so be prepared to have like additional responsibilities when you're performing a BA role.
Yeah.
Next one, Ritika, you want to take this?
So Ravi, suppose we have a situation we don't have capacity, but other stakeholder are saying us to take these additional responsibility.
Okay, so that's a good question actually. So what we need to do in that case is, so if I was in that situation, right, people give additional responsibilities and I have my day-to-day responsibilities, right? So I would look at some routine or monotonous day-to-day responsibilities, and then I'll go to my manager and then ask him, okay, so I'm fine to take up these additional responsibilities, but for me to take up these additional responsibilities, these are my day-to-day responsibilities, and I want someone else to handle these set of responsibilities so that I can take up additional responsibilities. So you go and negotiate, and then you get rid of some additional existing responsibilities which are of not interest to you, then take up the additional ones. So you create capacity, but you make it transparent to your manager and ask him to prioritize which ones are important. Okay.
But Ravi, Ravi, that is a straightforward one. But normally managers don't agree to it. If it is a kind of extra responsibilities, means with my current scenario, what I have seen is when is the extra responsibilities, it is not normally extra responsibility.
So is he expecting you to
give
work?
it. That is what I have seen.
So is he expecting you to work overtime after your work and do those?
Yeah, that is what happened. That is what happened.
So that
Extra
means
is
you
extra.
have a, so that means you have a toxic manager or maybe working in a toxic.
That is true. That is true. That is true. But again, if I say with my current management system, with our current company system, that is how it works. It's a one-man army kind of a system. That is how it works. It's not a kind of a person, means a manager, they have 2 or 3 people. It's only a manager who is kind of handling the own responsibilities.
Okay. So probably it's just, so there are organizations full of bureaucracy, right? And so sometimes we are like too small to change the organization as a whole. So the best way forward, right, to find another suitable opportunity and go. But so I have come across like managers who are like very understanding, who who help us in prioritizing. Okay. So probably it depends on case to case. If you're stuck in that toxic one, right, probably it's time to make a change. Maybe, yeah. So you're almost there right now. Yeah. Okay. Ritika, you want to go next?
Yeah. So that is the thing. This one. Okay. So I think this is a bug that has to be addressed immediately. So I will see, like, find the cause of the defect and maybe see how soon it can be fixed, and detect should be fixed immediately. And once it is fixed, maybe I will analyze why this happened and speak that in a brainstorming session.
Okay.
So I will see if the defect can be fixed as soon as possible, and later I will see to that, what is the root cause, and analyze why this happened.
Yeah. Okay. So again, so the
Yeah.
customer is saying here.
I just sorry, Ravi, I just wanted to add, like, so so I think if it takes time to fix this bug, we can probably let the customer know, right, that we are working on this and it's a bug on our side, and then we'll see if we can address it immediately, or we need to revert the prior code in production, so that system still keeps running as it was prior to this release.
Okay. Okay.
And I
So
think we also, stop the payment so that there is any repercussion.
okay. Yeah, so these are all like good thoughts, right? But I would suggest that you always take a step back. So here the customer is saying, I processed a payment, however, it was sent twice to the customer and there is a system issue, please help, right? This is what your customer is saying. So almost all of you must be convinced that, okay, this is a system defect, right? But a good business analyst, what they do is, so they will try to question what user is telling. So she's saying that I processed a payment and it was sent to the twice to the customer. This is a system issue. So if I was the business analyst here, right? So I would first go and find out if it is a real system issue or not. Okay, right? So then I will find out, okay, if it's a system issue, then I'll create a defect. If it's not a system issue, right, then I will dig more deeper and then enlighten the user. Okay, so this is a real scenario that I've encountered at my work. So where a customer came and told me that, okay, so I processed a payment, it was sent twice to the customer, and she said this is a system issue. Okay, so in some situations it is sending two payments to the customer. Then what we did is, so we took the application logs and the steps that she performed, and then finally the outcome was that she sent the payment twice to the customer by mistake. Okay, so she sent the payment once and then she took a coffee break, then she came back again and she sent the same payment again by mistake. Okay, so to cover up that mistake, so obviously customer has received and you have to find a way, right? So blame it on the technology or blame it on the product, that okay, because of some system issue it was sent twice. So always question the user's intention. So are they trying to hide anything? Are they giving you the total complete picture or not? Are they giving you full information or not before making a decision? Okay, so a lot of times what users are telling may not be the actual issues or may not be the actual root causes, right? Okay, so we'll complete the 9 and 10 as well quickly. So the 9 probably I'll take it up, and 10 Venkatesh, maybe you can explain. So we are working on a high profile requirement. The development is 50% complete and we found an important functionality is missing. And it is because I missed documenting the requirements related to it. Okay. So a normal business analyst, what they would do is, so they would simply sweep this under the rug because nobody has realized this, right? So if I go and tell that this important requirement is missing and because I didn't document it, everyone will start blaming me, right? So I will just sweep it under the rug. But a good business analyst, right? So we would immediately raise an alarm that a requirement has been missed, call out for a stakeholder meeting, explain them the requirement and prioritize this and understand the severity of it, and then rectify immediately and put it into the backlog, create a requirement and then and create a shared understanding. Okay, so that's what a good business analyst does. Venkatesh, you want to take the 10th point? So you're working on a requirement related to a complex business process. Only one user in the organization knows it. And then he has explained to Venkatesh on what is the process, and Venkatesh has mastered it. So he will tell what he will do next.
Hello.
Yeah, Venkatesh.
Ravi, I have a lot of background. Can you continue on behalf of it? Sorry for that.
Okay. Yeah, sure. No worries. I'll continue then. So the first thing, right? So this user may be holding all the knowledge and then he may be feeling secured. And the next thing is, so I get all the knowledge. So obviously I'm the second person who knows, right? So a lot of as a business analyst, so I would be happy and I would keep the knowledge to myself because that way I'm making my position pretty strong, right? I'm the only one who knows this process, correct? But in the long run, what happens with this mindset is any change comes for that process, right? Any change that's related to the process, I am the only one and I end up working only on the on that process. Okay, so I don't have capacity to work on anything else. Okay, so that will stagnate my learning. So always as a business analyst, right, share your knowledge with everyone else. And the other thing is, so the reason why only one person in the team, one person in the bank may know that process is because the process was intentionally made complex, or maybe the process is really complex. Okay, so whenever you find a complex process, right, make it as simple as possible. Remove all the wastage till you find nothing else to remove from that process. Okay, simplification and sharing the knowledge once you have learned something, right, that will make a lot of difference. So probably in the interest of time, right, so we'll discuss these 4 scenarios in the next session, and we'll move to the next areas. Okay.
Ravi, have one scenario. Could you able to answer this?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's say in the middle of the project, a business analyst has an urgent leave to be taken for a week. So the business end, they are supposed to finish the project within the time period of 2 weeks. And what action the team should take? I mean, the development team in that cases.
Okay, so it's again depends a lot on the situation, how many business analysts you have and how many developers you have, what are the other projects they are working in. So the standard process, right, if you're going on an emergency leave, so what you do is, so you go and inform your product owner that you're going on an emergency leave, and then your product owner will reassess your current sprint goal, and then he will revise the sprint goal, okay, along with the development team. So only a product owner has the authority to revise the sprint goal, or if you are the only business analyst, right, he can even abandon the sprint also. So only he has the right and authority to play with the sprint goal or the sprint itself. Okay, so you go and put forward the new capacity to your product owner and let him prioritize, and then reshuffle the goals and communicate to the business users. So it's quite common, right, especially during these COVID situations and all. We don't know when people will go on leave. The other thing is, so we also make sure that there is effective handover on a regular basis across teams, and good practices like saving all your work on shared drives and all of this, right? So that will help people to quickly act as backup when somebody goes on leave.
So any kind of a common problems or any kind of situational problems we face, for we need to consult product owner.
Product owner, yeah. So anything that's impacting your sprint, right, you need to first contact your product owner, not Scrum Master.
If there's no product owner in a business, then whom should we?
So there will always be one such guy who will play the role of a product owner. If not, then so he may not be called a product owner, but he should be someone like a product owner. There will always be, he could be like a project manager or anyone playing that role.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Hope it's helping, to tune the mindset. So we'll cover the next 4 scenarios tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Ravi.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.